today's session, we are going to start the new chapter, that is the elimination of the drug. Elimination comprises the excretion and the biotransformation of the drug. In the today's session, we will discuss the renal excretion of drugs. So this is the disclaimer for the viewers. Let us see the chapter content. So we are going to discuss the elimination chapter, drug metabolism and basic understanding of the metabolic pathway, then renal excretion of drug, then factors affecting renal excretion of drug and the renal clearance, and the non-renal routes of drug excretion of drugs. In the today's session, we are going to discuss only the renal excretion of drug along with the various factors affecting to renal excretion and the renal clearance. Let us move towards the learning objectives. So after learning this module, you will be able to define elimination, biotransformation and the excretion. You will be able to describe principal process of renal excretion of drugs. You will be able to explain factors affecting renal excretion of drugs. You will be able to define clearance and the renal clearance, and you will be able to write significance of renal clearance. So these are the few objectives I have set for the today's session. So today's session, I have focused only the renal excretion of drug, how the drug it is going to be excreted from the kidneys. So let us move towards the introduction. So what is mean by the drug elimination? As the drug disposition, it is furthermore divided into the elimination and the distribution of drug. These two principal processes reduces the plasma drug concentration from the body. The elimination, it is furthermore divided into the biotransformation and the excretion of the drug. And excretion, it is divided into the renal excretion of drug and the non-renal excretion of drug. Let us see the definition. So what is mean by the drug elimination? So drug elimination refers to irreversible removal of a drug from the body by the all routes of elimination, that is known as the drug elimination. As I have said that the drug elimination, it is furthermore divided into the biotransformation and the excretion. So the biotransformation, it is process of chemical conversion of one form to another form. So in the biotransformation, the complex lipophilic form of drug, it is converted into the simple water soluble polar, so as to it is going to be easily removed from the body or easily excreted from the body, that is known as the biotransformation. Excretion, it is the process in which the drugs or metabolites are irreversibly transferred from internal to external environment, that is known as the excretion. Here in the case of biotransformation, liver is the major organ which is involved, and it consists of the various enzymes which are responsible for the metabolism of the drug, and these drugs are being cleared by the liver only. That is considered as a hepatic clearance in such cases. In the case of excretion, it is furthermore divided into the renal excretion and the non-renal excretion. When the kidneys are involved in the excretion of drug, in such cases, it is said to be the renal excretion, and it is the major route of excretion. Another major route of excretion is the liver, that is the biotransformation. And whatever the remaining are there, which is considered as a non-renal other than the kidneys, in such cases, it is said to be the non-renal routes of excretion. In the case of renal excretion of drug, we are considering only the unchanged drug in the case of the renal clearance. While calculating the renal clearance, we are calculating it for only the unchanged drug. The changed drug we are not considering under the renal. The changed drug, that is by metabolism, it is considered under the biotransformation, that is the hepatic clearance, you can say. So this is the general introduction and definition related with the chapter elimination. Let us move towards the renal excretion of the drug. As you know that almost all the drugs and their metabolites are excreted by the kidneys. Whatever the drugs are there, if they are having the sufficient polarity and low molecular weight, then such drugs are going to be excreted through the kidneys. For example, aminoglycoside, gentamicin, almost 10% of drug, it is being excreted renally, or it is being cleared by the kidney. The drugs and the metabolites which are having the properties like which are water soluble, highly water soluble, which are non-volatile, they are having the small molecular size, and the drugs which metabolized slowly, such drugs are being excreted renally. Here I have shown the figure of the kidney. So here these two are the bean-shaped kidneys. Here it's the left kidney and this is the right kidney. So let us move towards the further details of the renal excretion of the drugs. As you know that the kidney comprises the millions of nephrons, isn't it? So the nephron is the basic functional unit of kidney involved in the excretion of a drug. So look at the figure. So this is the figure of nephron. This is the glomerulus. It is also known as the Bowman's capsule. Then this is the afferent arteriole, which is wide. Look the figure very carefully. Then efferent arteriole, which is narrow, so which exert pressure inside the glomerulus and which is responsible for the filtration. Then here it's a proximal convoluted tubule. Then this is the loop of Henle. Then distal convoluted tubule, and here it's a collecting tubule. So each kidney comprises approximately 1 million of the nephrons, and which is responsible for the removal of the body waste as well as the excretion of the drug. So the each nephron, it is made up of the glomerulus. It is also known as the Bowman's capsule, then the proximal tubule, loop of Henle, then the distal tubule, and the collecting tubule. So these are the major units or the major components of the nephron. Let us move further. The principal processes which are involved in the urinary excretion of the drug. There are three principal processes. Very first one, that is known as the glomerular filtration. So here this is the Bowman capsule, and whatever the received blood, it is going to be filtered by the Bowman's capsule, and that is known as the glomerular filtration. The second principal process, that is known as the active tubular secretion. So here in the proximal tubule, the drugs are going to be secreted actively into the urine, drugs as well as the metabolites. The third principal process, that is known as the active reabsorption of acidic as well as the basic drugs. It involves the passive reabsorption of the lipophilic drug. So there are three principal processes are there which are involved in the renal excretion of drug. That is very first one, glomerular filtration, active tubular secretion, and active or passive tubular reabsorption. So the glomerular filtration and the active tubular secretion increases the excretion of the drug and thereby decreases the elimination half-life of drug. Whereas the active or passive tubular reabsorption increases the elimination half-life of drug and reduces the renal excretion of the drug, because the drug, it is going to be back diffused or it is going to be reabsorbed back into the systemic circulation. So the glomerular filtration and active tubular secretion increases concentration of drug in urine and facilitates the excretion of drug, whereas the active tubular reabsorption retards drug excretion. So the rate of drug excretion, it is given by the equation, that is the rate of filtration plus rate of secretion minus rate of reabsorption. So the rate of excretion, rate of drug excretion is equal to rate of filtration plus rate of secretion minus rate of reabsorption. Drug gets filtered, maybe same drug, it is going to be secreted, and same it is going to be reabsorbed back. So the in all, the rate of excretion is equal to rate of filtration plus rate of secretion minus rate of reabsorption. Let us move towards the glomerular filtration. Look at the figure. So here, this is the Bowman's capsule, isn't it? And the drugs which are having the low molecular weight, such drugs are going to be filtered from the Bowman's capsules or through the glomeruli. So here, the glomerular filtration, it is the non-selective, then it is the unidirectional. Whatever the drug is there, which is moved from glomerulus into the proximal tubule or into the urine. Here in the glomerular filtration, ionized and unionized drug filtered. If the drug is ionized, if the drug is unionized, and it is having the low molecular weight, such drugs are going to be filtered by the glomeruli, except the drug which is bound to the proteins and the blood cells, because such a drug is having the high molecular weight. As the glomeruli, it is having the negative charge, so it promotes the retention of anionic drug. Anionic drugs are not going to be filtered well through the glomeruli. Here, the driving force for the filtration is the hydrostatic pressure. See the second figure. So the whatever the blood flow, blood capillary, which exerts the hydrostatic pressure, it is due to blood hydrostatic pressure, it is approximately 15 mm Hg. Then the blood colloid osmotic pressure, it is 30 mm per Hg, and capsular hydrostatic pressure, it is 15 mm per Hg. So total hydrostatic pressure, the net outward hydrostatic pressure exerted and which is responsible for the filtration and the excretion of drug, it is the 10 mm per Hg. So that is the driving force for the filtration or the excretion of the drug. Total 25% of a cardiac output, it reaches to the kidney. That is approximately 1.2 liter per minute. So kidney receives approximately 1.2 liter per minute blood. That is the 25% of cardiac output. And from that, only the 10% it is going to be filtered at the rate of 120 to 130 ml per minute, and that is known as the glomerular filtration rate. So every minute 120 to 130 ml of the urine, it is going to be formed. The total quantity in a day, it is very huge, isn't it? But the some amount of water, it is going to be reabsorbed back. Glomerular filtration rate, it is estimated or determined by using the creatinine, which is exclusively filtered from the glomeruli, then the inulin, mannitol, and the sodium thiosulfate. So these are the ingredients which are used for the determination of glomerular filtration rate, because these components or indigenous material like a creatinine, it is going to be exclusively filtered by the glomeruli at the rate of 120 to 130 ml per minute. So this is about the glomerular filtration. Let us see the active tubular secretion. As here, the carriers are involved in the process, so the energy is required. The process, it is going to be saturable, and it is going to be stopped by the metabolic poison. It works against the concentration gradient, that is, the drug moves from lower to higher concentration. There are two active tubular secretion methods are there. That is the secretion of organic acid or anions and secretion of organic bases or cations. For example, the organic acids like uric acid, salicylic acid, penicillin, and sulfates, they utilizes the organic acid system for the secretion, and the endogenous amines and morphine utilizes the organic basis system for the secretion of drug into the urine or into the lumen. Both the systems, that is secretion of organic acids or the organic bases, both the systems are bidirectional. They are non-selective. They are not specific, non-selective, and independent of each other. Drug may get secretes, drug may get reabsorbed back in another mechanism. So whatever both the systems are there, which are bidirectional, non-selective, and independent of the each other. So here it's a active transport, that is the active tubular secretion, and organic acids as well as the bases which moves from blood into the urine. Active tubular secretion, it is unaffected by the changes in pH and the protein binding. But the active tubular secretion, it is dependent on the renal blood flow. That is, it is a perfusion rate limited. If the blood flow towards the kidney, it is going to be increased, the drugs which are going to be secreted actively, such drugs are going to be excreted at a faster rate. Active tubular secretion, it is measured by using the compound that is known as the para-aminohippuric acid. It is going to be filtered as well as secreted. As in the case of glomerular filtration, the rate is 120 to 130 ml per minute. And in the case of para-aminohippuric acid, which is going to be filtered and secreted, the clearance rate values become 600 to 700 ml per minute. And that is the renal blood flow. In the case of penicillin, which is going to be filtered as well as secreted, the clearance values, which is 400 ml per minute. So this is active tubular secretion, which is mainly occurs in the proximal tubule region of the nephron, and it decreases the elimination half-life of drug. If the drug it is going to be secreted by the active tubular secretion, the elimination half-life of drug, it is going to be decreased. As here, this is the active process and the carriers are involved. It is bidirectional, energy is required, and it is not as such specific for the specific structure. So there might be chances of competition between the structurally similar compounds for the excretion. If two drugs are having the same structure, so there may be the chances of competition between the two drugs, and such interactions, such a drug interactions are going to alter the efficacy of drug, that is pharmacological action. It is going to alter the excretion of one drug. It is going to alter the half-life of the drug. For example, take an example of probenecid and penicillin. Probenecid competes to the penicillin towards the binding site, isn't it? Probenecid is having the highest affinity towards the binding site for the excretion, and it retards the tubular secretion of the penicillin and thereby increases the efficacy of the penicillin. So this is the beneficial type of drug interaction. The another drug interaction with the probenecid, that is the probenecid and methotrexate. Again, in the case of methotrexate also, the efficacy of methotrexate, it is going to be increased. That yet another example I have cited over here, that is the probenecid and the nitrofurantoin. Nitrofurantoin is the drug which is used for the urinary tract infection. Nowadays, it is not in the clinical practice, and the probenecid prevents the secretion of nitrofurantoin. As the nitrofurantoin, it is going to act in the urinary tract infection, so it should be present in the urine. If its secretion is inhibited by the probenecid, what will happen? The efficacy of nitrofurantoin, it is going to be decreased, or it is going to be reduced. Furthermore, the probenecid inhibits the reabsorption of uric acid. So this is about the active tubular secretion. Let us move towards the tubular reabsorption. Tubular reabsorption, it is either active process or the passive process. It may be active or it may be passive. So tubular reabsorption increases the elimination half-life of drug. As the drug, it is going to be reabsorbed back from the urine into the systemic circulation. So it increases the concentration of drug from the plasma and thereby increases the elimination half-life of drug. If the glomerular filtration rate is less than 120 ml per minute, the drug, it is going to be reabsorbed. For example, glucose. The glucose, it is going to be filtered and 100% it is going to be reabsorbed back. There are two types of the tubular reabsorption processes which are involved in the reabsorption of a drug. That is very first one, that is the active process, and second one, that is the passive process. So in the case of active tubular reabsorption, it is responsible for the absorption of the endogenous materials like glucose, uric acid, electrolytes, vitamins, and the amino acid. And in the case of passive tubular reabsorption, the exogenous material, including the drugs, they are going to be reabsorbed back. And it's a reabsorption of these drugs that depend on the physicochemical properties of the drug that will decide whether the drug, it is going to be reabsorbed back or not. Here, the driving force for the reabsorption is the concentration gradient, which is developed by the back diffusion or reabsorption of water along with the electrolytes. As some volume of water, it is going to be reabsorbed back into the systemic circulation. So that will create the concentration gradient, isn't it? And the urinary concentration of drug, it may be on the higher side, and which promotes the back diffusion of a drug into the systemic circulation. The determinants of the passive reabsorption, as I have said, the physicochemical properties of the drug like a lipophilicity, polarity, and the ionization. If the drug, it is lipophilic in nature, such drugs are going to be reabsorbed back. And if drugs are polar and ionized, such drugs are going to be excreted via urine. Such drugs are not going to be reabsorbed back into the systemic circulation. Further, there is a need to consider the degree of ionization, because that is depend on the pH of urine, pK of drug, and the urine flow rate. What is the urine flow rate? Isn't it? Then what is the pK of drug? Because that will decide the dissociation of a drug at a particular urine pH, isn't it? So these factors are going to affect the tubular reabsorption. So let us see the pH of urine and the pK of drug. The urine pH, it is going to be vary from 4.5 to 7.5. So it is almost acidic to neutral. And the urinary pH, it is depend on the diet, drug intake, and the pathophysiology. If the food which is rich with the carbohydrates, it increases the urinary pH, which is near to alkaline. If the food which is rich with the proteins, it decreases the urinary pH, right? So automatically, the diet, it is going to change the urinary pH, and thereby the excretion of acidic drugs as well as the basic drugs, it is going to be changed, isn't it? The drugs which are ionized at a urinary pH, such drugs are going to be excreted well renally. The drugs like acetazolamide, then the sodium bicarbonate makes the urine alkaline and thereby changes the excretion of drug, or thereby affects the renal excretion of the drug. Furthermore, the excretion of drug, it is depend on the lipophilicity and the pK of the drug. If the drug, it is polar, it is going to be excreted. If drug, it is the lipophilic, it is going to be reabsorbed back. Its ionization, it is decided by the dissociation constant. And let us see how the ionization and the pK of drug and pH of urine affects the renal excretion of a drug. So very first group I have made, that is the drugs which are very weak acids or bases and which are polar in nature. Drugs are acidic acids or bases and polar in nature. The reabsorption of such drugs, it is independent of urine pH, and they are going to be excreted through the urine. If the drugs are weak acids with a pKa greater than 8, if the weak bases with a pKa less than 6, and the non-polar drugs, such drugs are unionized at a urine pH and reabsorbed back into the systemic circulation. If the drug is strong acid or base, such drug is ionized and it is going to be excreted from the urine. If the drug is acidic with a pKa 3 to 8, look at the pH of the urine, 4.5 to 7.5. So if the drug is acidic with a pKa 3 to 8 and basic with a pKa 6 to 12, reabsorption of such drugs, it is depend on the pH, because the pH of urine decides the ionization. And if drug is, most of the quantity of drug is ionized, the drug, it is going to be excreted. If most of the quantity of drug is unionized, it is going to be reabsorbed back. So this is about the tubular reabsorption of a drug, along with the effect of physicochemical properties of the drug, urine pH, on the tubular reabsorption. Let us see the urine flow, how it is going to affect the tubular reabsorption. The polar drugs, which are, if the drug is polar in nature, the reabsorption of a drug, it is unaffected by the urine flow. Urine flow, it is not going to affect the reabsorption of a polar drug. It is going to be eliminated. But the drugs which are having the pH dependent reabsorption, it is inversely proportional to urine flow. If the urine flow is increased, the reabsorption, it is going to be decreased. There is one way by which we can increase the urine flow, that is by using the diuretics or by forced diuresis by using the mannitol. So this is about the tubular reabsorption. Let us see the relationship between renal clearance and the mechanisms of the clearance. Here I have made table to understand the relationship between renal clearance and mechanism of clearance. First column, renal clearance in ml per minute, then CLR ratio, drug to creatinine, then the mechanism of renal clearance and the example. Already we have seen the three mechanisms, isn't it? That is a glomerular filtration, then the active tubular secretion and reabsorption, tubular reabsorption. So very first case, if the renal clearance, it is a 0, the ratio of drug to creatinine, it is an indicator, isn't it, about the renal function or renal impairment. It is possible to access the glomerular filtration by using the creatinine, right? So the renal clearance ratio, drug to creatinine, it is 0, and the mechanism which is involved for the such drug, the drug it is come filtered and also reabsorbed completely. Whatever the drug, it is filtered by the glomeruli, the same amount, same quantity, it is going to be reabsorbed back. And we are getting the value of renal clearance, that is the 0. Example is the glucose. If the renal clearance value is less than 130, you know the creatinine clearance value, that is 120 to 130. So here we are getting the ratio drug to creatinine, which is above 0 and below 1, right? Above 0 and below 1, that is a 0 to 1. So drug, it is going to be filtered. The mechanism involved for such drugs, that is a drug, it is being filtered and reabsorbed partially. For example, lipophilic drugs. Lipophilic drugs are going to be filtered well and they may be partially reabsorbed, and we are getting the clearance value less than 130, and the ratio of drug to creatinine is a 0 to 1. If we are getting the clearance value 130, the ratio becomes 1 and drug, it is going to be filtered. The mechanism which is involved in the renal clearance, the filtration mechanism, for example, creatinine. If the clearance value, it is greater than 130, we will get the ratio which is greater than 1, and drug, it is going to be filtered as well as secreted. Why we are getting the values of a drug to creatinine greater than 1? It is because of the drug, it is being filtered as well as secreted in the urine. Example, polar ionic drug. And the last, that is we are getting the value which is near to 650 ml per minute. Clearance ratio drug to creatinine, it is 5, and the clearance of such drugs are equal to renal plasma flow rate or renal blood flow rate, para aminohippuric acid. So this is the relationship between the renal clearance and the mechanisms of clearance. So here we have finished the principal mechanisms which are involved in the renal excretion of a drug. We have discussed the glomerular filtration, then active tubular secretion, and selective reabsorption. In the case of selective reabsorption, we have discussed the active reabsorption and the passive reabsorption. There are various factors are there which are going to affect the passive reabsorption like a physicochemical properties of drug, along with the pK of drug and the lipophilicity, along with the urine flow rate. Let us move towards the factors affecting renal excretion of a drug. There are various factors are there which are going to affect the renal excretion of the drug, like physicochemical properties of the drug, then the plasma concentration of drug, then distribution and binding characteristics of drug, urine pH, already we have discussed, blood flow to the kidneys, then biological factors, drug interactions, and the disease states. So let us move towards the physicochemical properties of the drug. If the drugs are having the molecular size less than 300 Dalton, such drugs are going to be filtered. As you know that the dissociation constant of drug, it is going to decide the ionization, and that will decide the excretion of the drug. Furthermore, the lipophilicity of the drug, it is going to affect or it is going to alter the excretion of the drug. If the drug is lipophilic, it is going to be reabsorbed back into the systemic circulation. Yet another parameter, that is a stereoselectivity. Say in the case of active tubular secretion, if the stereoisomers are there, they are having the selective affinity towards the carriers, and that will decide the excretion of the specific drug. So in this way, the physicochemical properties of drug which are going to affect the renal excretion of the drug. Let us move towards the plasma concentration of the drug. Plasma concentration of drug, it is going to affect or going to alter the excretion of the drug. That is the glomerular filtration as well as the reabsorption. It is directly affected by the plasma drug concentration. In the case of reabsorption, if there is a passive mechanism is involved and if the concentration is gradient, it is not maintained, such drugs are not going to be reabsorbed back into the systemic circulation. If the plasma concentration is high, then we will get the high glomerular filtration for the specific drug. A drug not bound to plasma protein, that is an unbound drug, and which is excreted by the filtration only. Say for example, if the drug it is unbound, which is not bound to the protein and which is being excreted by the filtration only, shows a linear relationship between the rate of excretion and PDC. Look at the graph, second graph, rate of excretion versus PDC, middle curve. So this is one case number one. Drug, it is being excreted by the filtration, and we are getting the linear relationship between rate of excretion and the plasma drug concentration. In the same case, when we are plotting the graph of renal clearance versus PDC, we are getting the constant renal clearance values when the drug it is going to be filtered. In the case of drug secreted or reabsorbed actively, the rate of process, that is rate of secretion or rate of reabsorption, increases with an increase in a PDC till carriers get saturated. Look at the figure. The second case, if the drug it is going to be filtered and actively reabsorbed, we are getting the curve like this. You see the another curve, that is a renal clearance versus plasma drug concentration. Initially, there is a rise in the renal clearance up to certain level, and thereafter we are getting the constant values for the renal clearance as the active sites are going to be saturated. Then the case 3, that is a drug it is going to be filtered and actively secreted. Initially we are getting the high clearance values. Thereafter, the rate it is going to be reduced because of saturation of active sites, isn't it? And at last, we are achieving the plateau or the constant values for the renal clearance. And in the case of rate of excretion, we are getting this third number curve, isn't it? Initially, it is a curve, and thereafter there is a linear relationship with a second case and the third case. So in this way, the plasma concentration of the drug, it is going to affect the renal excretion of the drug. Let us see the distribution and binding characteristics of the drug. Renal clearance, it is inversely proportional to the volume of distribution. Say the drug, it is exclusively excreted by the kidney. In such cases, the clearance values are inversely proportional to the volume of distribution. If drug shows the high volume of distribution, such drugs are having the low renal clearance. That is a drug with a large apparent volume of distribution, poorly excreted through the urine. If drug present in the blood compartment, that is in the systemic circulation, such drug shows the high excretion. Means the drugs are having the low apparent volume of distribution or small volume of distribution. Furthermore, it should be present in the unbound form. Protein bound drug, it is not going to be filtered, as you know that it is behaves as a macromolecule, and thereby it increases the half-life of the drug. For example, oxytetracycline and doxycycline. In the case of oxytetracycline, which is 66% free, and the clearance values, renal clearance value, it is 99 ml per minute. And in the case of doxycycline, only 7% is free, and the clearance values is 16 ml per minute. It indicates that if the drug is protein bound, the renal clearance of such drugs are going to be decreased, and which increases the elimination half-life of the drug. Actively secreted drug have a little effect on the drug protein binding. So the drug protein binding have the little effect on the actively secreted drug, because of once the drug reaches to the specific site, it is going to be dissociated from the binding site, PD complex, and it is going to be excreted. For example, penicillin. Let us see the influence of urine pH. Already we have discussed the influence of urine pH under the active tubular reabsorption, isn't it? So I'm not going to repeat over here once again. Let us see the blood flow to the kidney. Definitely the blood flow to the kidney, it is going to affect the renal excretion of drug. It is going to alter the renal excretion of the drug. It is going to affect the glomerular filtration and the active secretion of the drug. In the case of active secretion, the excretion of a drug, it is going to be increased, and because of increase in a contact of a drug with the secretory sites. And in such cases, it is the active secretion, it is said to be the perfusion rate limited. So this is about blood flow to the kidney. Let us see the biological factors. Age, sex, species difference, strain difference in the genetic makeup, then circadian rhythm. These parameters are going to alter the excretion of a drug. For example, in the females, the renal drug excretion is 10% lower than that of the males. Similarly, in the case of newborn, the kidneys are not well developed, and the renal function is 30 to 40% less than that of the normal adults. In the case of elderly patient, GFR, that is the glomerular filtration rate, as well as the tubular function, it is not functioning well, and which reduces the renal excretion of drug. And in such cases, there is a need to reduce the dose of the drug in the case of newborns as well as the elderly patients. Moving towards the drug interactions. Drug interactions are the very important one. These are, you can say it as the drug, it is going to be displaced, or there may be the competition between the excretion of the drug, and furthermore, it is going to affect the excretion of the drug. So any drug interaction that result in alteration in a protein binding. If the protein binding of a drug, it is going to be altered, the free concentration of the drug, it is going to be increased. And furthermore, that may affect the renal excretion of a drug. Then renal blood flow. If any drug which changes the renal blood flow, that may alter the renal excretion of a drug. Then the active secretion, then the urine pH, then intrinsic clearance, forced diuresis. These parameters are going to alter. If there is any change in these parameters, there is an alteration in the renal clearance of the drug. So these drug interactions, they're going to alter the renal excretion in the case of alteration in the protein binding, alteration of urine pH, then competition for active secretion, and forced diuresis by using the diuretics, which promotes the excretion of certain drugs. So the first one, that is alteration in a protein binding. So the renal clearance of drugs which are extensively bound to the plasma protein is increased after displacement with the another drug. If the drug, it is extensively bound to the plasma protein, say for example 90% of drug, it is protein bound, and if we have introduced the another drug which displaces the protein binding, that will increase the unbound concentration of a drug, and furthermore the excretion of a drug, it is going to be increased. For example, gentamicin and furosemide. Furosemide competes for the protein binding site and thereby displaces the gentamicin, which is exclusively excreted by renally, and that may lead to the nephrotoxicity. So furosemide displaces the gentamicin from the binding sites, which increases the unbound concentration of gentamicin and its renal excretion, and further results in the nephrotoxicity. That is a major disadvantage or major adverse effect of the use of gentamicin. Let us see the alteration of urine pH. Acidification and alkalization, which leads to the change in the urinary pH, and that may alter the excretion of the drug. So acidification of urine with the ammonium chloride, methionine, ascorbic acid enhances the renal excretion of basic drug, because basic drugs are present in the ionized form at a acidic urine or in the acidic urine. Alkalization of urine with the citrate purpose, tartarates, bicarbonates, or carbonic anhydrase inhibitors promotes the excretion of acidic drug, because acidic drugs are present in the ionized form in the alkaline urine, and which promotes the excretion of the acidic drug. For example, the crystalluria developed by the sulfonamide, which can be resolved by the hydration and urinary alkalization. Let us move towards the competition for the active secretion. So there may be the competition as three principal processes which are involved: glomerular filtration, active secretion, and tubular reabsorption. Say for example, in the case of active secretion, there are two types of carriers are there. One which is responsible for the organic anions, and one which is responsible for the organic cations, isn't it? If two drugs are there, they are having the affinity towards the same system, anionic system or cationic system. What will happen? There will be the competition, and excretion of the drug which is having the highest affinity, it is going to be increased. For example, phenylbutazone and the hydroxyhexamide. Here the hydroxyhexamide competes for the phenylbutazone for active secretion, and the concentration of phenylbutazone in the systemic circulation is going to be increased, and thereby furthermore efficacy. Probenecid reduces the secretion of organic anion. Already we have seen the example, that is the penicillin and the methotrexate, and cimetidine, which reduces the secretion of organic cations. The drug example, that is the metformin, and thereby increases the concentration of metformin in the plasma. And the last factor, that is a forced diuresis. All the diuretics, whatever you have studied in the pharmacology, increases the elimination of drug whose renal clearance gets affected by urine flow rate, because forced diuresis increases the urine flow rate. If the excretion of a drug, it is depend on the urine flow, in such cases, the forced diuresis increases the excretion of the drug. Let us see the disease state. That is the renal dysfunction and uremia. So there are so many causes of renal dysfunctions are there. That is hypertension, diabetes, meltus, hypovolemia, then pyelonephritis, nephroallergens, then nephrotic agents like gentamicin, phenacetin, lead, mercury. The accumulation of all these things which leads to the renal dysfunction and which impairs the excretion of a drug and furthermore increases the elimination half-life of the drug. Yet another condition is there that is known as the uremia. It is characterized by impaired glomerular filtration and there is an accumulation of fluid and the protein metabolites. Furthermore, which increases the elimination half-life of the drug. So there are two situations or conditions are there in which the renal function it is going to be affected or altered and excretion of a drug it is going to be reduced. The factors affecting to renal excretion of a drug. The remaining part we will discuss in the next lecture. Okay, thank you very much.